This is the Living Numbers Podcast, and I am your host, Tony Rambles. And I've got someone very special for you all today. I've got your nurse's favorite nurse, your teacher's favorite teacher. The Dr. Seuss book, 500 Hats, doesn't have enough hats for her because she wears so many. Hailing from kinda Detroit, Michigan, Romulus, Miss Terri Brinston is on the pod. Terri, say hello to the people.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you. That was cute.
Was it? Okay. I try to make it fun.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, Tom.
It is my pleasure. And so I guess I'll tell everybody how we met. So there's this site, Go Wildcast. I mean, pub or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's the truth. We met on there because I'm looking for, great people to bring on for you all. And me and Terri connected because I saw that she had a 313 number. I'm like, hold on, wait a second. I know where that is. So we connected and we just started to converse back and forth. And I'm like, wow, this woman has an amazing story. So I've got to have her on here. Terri, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Just go wherever you want to. We've been talking here for like, maybe 20, 25 minutes.
Right.
So we've already got this ball rolling. We're just bringing y'all in now. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Tony. I appreciate you allowing me to share with your audience. I just respect the fact that you're an educator. So thank you for what you're doing in our school systems. Like I said, I'm an educator as well. I teach, I'm a registered nurse. I'm a high school teacher. I'm a author. I'm I'm a legal
entrepreneur.
Nurse consultant. I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, you can look at my resume and either you'll say, man, she's smart, or dang, she's confused. So whichever way you want to go with it. But anyway, I love to learn. Definitely. I am just so grateful to be here to share with you. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is to share my book that I just finished. It's called Grateful for the Journey, Surviving.
Yes.
So I'm excited to just be alive, especially what's going on in our world. And the fact that I definitely am a survivor, and also to encourage people to get, immunized. And
yes.
A lot of people are saying that, this COVID thing isn't real.
Oh my goodness.
I am a living testimony that it is real. So
yeah, go ahead. I mean, when you say stuff like I'm a survivor and, COVID-19, those are things that people are like, oh yeah, I can relate, because many people have been through some very difficult times, over this past year or two. So go ahead, share your journey and just talk about the book and take it from here.
Absolutely. First I wanted to just, my hats, just my prayers go to the families who've lost loved ones to COVID and, lost their battle. I know I lost a lot of friends to COVID as well. So, definitely I want to just kind of, just let people know that my prayers are with you if you've lost someone or been impacted by COVID. I was diagnosed in March of last year when it first came out. And so I went into the hospital. I was there for 30 days.
Whoa.
I was on the vent for 15 days. So I was on the vent.
Wow.
And so back then, they didn't know what they were dealing with. They, of course, our medical professionals were doing their best. And, it was just horrible because, nobody could come to the hospital with me. My husband like literally dropped me off at the door. We're thinking that he was going to be able to come into the hospital and
they're like shooing them away, like, get out of here. We can't.
It was like he dropped it. The weird thing about it was, and I don't think people really understand this, is that because I know I used to work in a hospital, I'm a nurse. When you pulled up to the hospital, the lines, this is the eerie thing, the lines were like so long of cars driving through the ER because you couldn't go in. And then you had the military out there with tents, and so it's like, this is like EMS, ambulances coming through with their patients. They couldn't take them in. They had to go through this triage outside.
Wow. And so where are you? Is this in Romulus or where?
This is actually, I was at Oakwood Hospital in Dearborn.
Okay.
Yeah. And so just, it was like a movie. We're standing, in line in the car, and they're like, they're coming to you. They got their PPE on and their masks, and it's like hazmat is there. It's like, oh my God, what is going on?
Right.
And so when my temperature was met the requirement, it was 100.7, and they were like, okay, you can go in and tell your husband to go home. It was just, and then I didn't see him till 29 days later.
So like the crazy thing is my wife works in a hospital too. She's a registrar. Okay. So they had the whole like tent in the parking garage thing set up where people had to pull through. So she tell me about how crazy it got there too. So
that was the scariest thing, because it's like, okay, what they're dealing with, or what the hospitals are dealing with, is what I think I have. You know what I'm saying? And at that point, it wasn't a lot of news. It was just like, okay, be careful. A lot of people weren't dying at that point. And so I think I was the first person on the floor at the hospital that I was admitted to with COVID.
History maker.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Even in your difficulty.
Oh my goodness, it was horrible. It was horrible, and it's just and I definitely, I write about it in the book, about that experience, but the blessing out of it. My sister-in-law actually is an RN as well, and she was on the floor. She actually was on the same floor that I was admitted on. And so anyway, so it was a horrible experience. I think that the scariest thing was being admitted and the world was normal. And actually, when I was discharged, it was like the world was totally different. And I think I just missed I missed a lot. Like, it was like, okay, everybody's going to work, everybody's living their life. And then when I come out, everybody's locked in their homes. Wow. And, so it was like trying to transition from, okay, well, wait a minute.
I missed all of this.
Wait, what happened? I really thought I was in a parallel universe. It was just like, I was just so confused, just driving home from the hospital, and it's like no cars on the street. And I'm thinking, am I really awake? Anyway, it was quite a.
And do you talk about that in the book too?
I do. I talk about that. The odd thing is, people look at the title and they're like, okay, you had a horrific experience with COVID, but now you're saying grateful for the journey. What in the heck is this about? And so what happened was, when I got out of the hospital, I lost a lot of my memory. I couldn't remember a lot of people. I really didn't know. When I woke up, I didn't know I was married. The only person I remember, the only person you remember is your mama. Like,
man.
I'm like, okay, where my mom?
Shout out to the moms.
Shout out to the moms. All I remembered is I have a mother, and I needed to contact her. But as I was, healing, I lost a lot of memory, and I didn't know why I was a nurse or why I was an educator. My husband was telling me the things that I did, why I was a business owner. I just didn't have any reference as to why my life, you know, ended up the way that it was. And so very embarrassed about that, because it was like, I knew that I needed to know, but I just couldn't remember. So
Yeah.
I had started, you know, talking with a psychologist, because I was like, now I was tripping for real. I thought I was two people. I thought I didn't know where I ended and where my
Oh
husband
man.
began. I mean, I was like, it was really, really bad. But so anyway, she recommended that I start writing, you know, just journaling, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
I started where I am. You know, I am a nurse, certified legal nurse consultant. You know, I'm a cosmetologist. You know, so I started just like
Everything.
writing out, this is where I am. Okay, what happened to make me take this journey? You know, why did
Yeah.
I do this and why did I do that? But the amazing thing about that, Tony, was I really started to discover that God really orchestrated my life. You know, I could see the doors open, I could see the doors closing. It
Mm-hmm.
was just so um, just breathtaking, actually, when I started to see, you know, because, you know, I struggled a lot with a learning disability. I was a special ed student when I was in high school. And so
Wow.
I couldn't read. And so I had to like rediscover, well, how in the heck did I get from being a special ed student to being a nurse? And so
Yeah.
I was able to really pinpoint the turning points in my life. And I write about that in the book. And so that's why I can say, you know, grateful for the journey, because I, when I was, you know, younger, I was really a different person. I was very quiet. I was an introvert. I thought I was very shy. I thought I
Mm.
was stupid. I thought I was ugly. You know, I just had a lot of low
Yeah.
self-esteem issues. And so, but when I started looking back on my characteristics and who I was, I
Mm-hmm.
recognized that I had to go through that so that I
Right.
could have a certain passion for the young people that I work with now. So
Right.
sort of like what I'm playing on with the book.
Wow. That just kind of leaves me speechless because we're both in education and we see some of these uh disabilities that kids have, and you go from that and to being an RN, being a business owner, being a teacher in your own right for over 20 years. You had a hill to climb, right? You had a journey to go on, and to be able to do it, and then to be able to look back, because a lot of times we get so caught up in where we are now and what's going on now and what's next and looking towards the future, especially when you have a family, you have a business, you have so much going on that you don't take the time to look back. And you had to look back from the beginning
Right.
because you didn't have anything to really go off of, like you just said. You didn't have a reference. So you're like, okay, this is where I am, how did I get here? And to be able to see that and to then attribute that to God, at least you didn't forget that part.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing. So with as I started to look at your background and to look at your social media and stuff, one of the questions that came to mind was, how did you decide what to kind of take, what was a hobby, and then what would you take into being more of a business? So like, how did you decipher which passion is, okay, I need to go to school for this, and I need to get better at this, or this is, it's cool, but I'm not ready for that yet.
Mhm. You know, that's interesting that you say that. People always ask me, well, what are your hobbies? I like to draw, and
Mhm.
I used to sing a lot.
Well,
So
okay.
those are my things. Don't ask me to sing, but
I will not be,
I say I used to sing, but
I will not ask you to sing. I'm in the church choir. If y'all see me, Inspiration Church, I'll sing on Sundays. I'm on the
right, that's
stage. I'll
it.
lead songs and everything. Don't ask
Right,
me to sing in
right,
regular life.
right. I do real good in the shower, but I so I am a workaholic. I love to work and I love to learn. And I've discovered through writing this book is that once I started learning, I just love to learn.
Okay.
And so I don't look at, I think I look at the paths that I've, the things that I've embraced as far as my career and my hobby is just things that make me happy. You know what I'm saying? I just enjoy them. And so I love working with people. Okay. And so when I was a registered nurse and working as a pediatric nurse working at a hospital bedside, I had my small children, my boys. I have 2 boys. They're grown now, grown now. But they were so young, just like you, I was up with my babies and I just loved my babies and I wanted to be home with them more.
Yes.
And, working as an RN, I was working 12 hours, 3 12-hour shifts, and I was working midnights. And so I found that I wasn't able to, be home with my children the way that I wanted to.
Right.
And so I looked at what it was that I enjoyed most about being a nurse.
Okay.
And one of the things is that I enjoyed the education component of being a nurse. So as a nurse, as a pediatric nurse, your patients are your parents and the children. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to care for the child, and then I had to educate the parent on how to care for their child when they got home.
Right.
And that was the thing that I think that I thrived the most. I love teaching the disease process and to break it down so that they can go home and really take care of their child. And so that was something that I really didn't want to do without. But I was like, oh, what can I do? And I also taught in Sunday school, and I enjoy teaching Sunday school. And
so many parallels.
Right. And so I was like, oh, I can, and this is so weird because if you would have asked me this 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to make that connection, but since COVID, I was able to kind of really track why did I like education. And so anyway, I was at a party. A friend of my neighbor, a really good friend of mine, was graduating from school, and she was getting ready to take a job in a school system. And her principal was there, and a position was available.
Oh, here we go.
For a health occupation teacher. And he said, well, we have, the teacher is retiring and she knows someone that she wants to give it to, but, you can interview. And I go, I said, well, if this is for me, it's for me. So I interviewed and I got the job. So that's how I kind of got into education. But it really stemmed from me evaluating what do I enjoy? I guess I always talk to people and I say, your job is what you do. It's not who you are. And so I like to look at opportunities and get connected to things that is connected to who I am as a person.
Wow, that's perfect.
If that makes sense. That's
perfect. Yes. The funny thing is, I started off teaching Sunday school too.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, there's so many parallels here.
Absolutely. See, we're from Detroit.
I mean, it was meant to be.
Absolutely.
So I was teaching Sunday school, and I didn't recognize that I enjoyed being a teacher so much, right? But I was that person, whatever job I was on, I was always educating people. I was always getting put in leadership roles where I would have to help, to show people the way, right? And so that was even back when I was working at Forever 21, I became a head cashier and I was training people, right? When I worked at Chase, I had an opportunity to become a lead teller, but I chose the banking side because it was more money. But I was always that person educating people, teaching people. I've always been that person.
Right.
So once I graduated from college, from a terrible college, which I will not name.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole different story. I mean, we could go there. But I was thinking, okay, do I want to stay in banking? Now I have a degree. Now, anybody out there who's graduated from college who has a degree, it changes your mind a little bit because you go, wait, I have some options here, right? I don't have to stay and do this, whatever job it is. So I was like, okay, no, I don't want to be a banker. I don't want to be here for the long term.
Right.
And so I started to evaluate, okay, what do I want to do? I don't know. So I went to a job fair like many people do. I walked around, saw 20 different companies, and one of them talked about teaching English in China. I was like, man, nobody's going to China. Ain't nobody going to China. That's exactly what I thought in my head.
Right.
And so after walking around, I was by myself. I don't think I took off work. I just think it was an off day.
Okay.
And I get in my car and I'm like, okay, what about this China thing? Maybe, let me check it out. Let me do some research because everybody wants to travel. I haven't heard anybody that say, I never want to go anywhere. I just want to stay in my hood.
Right.
But traveling costs money.
Mm-hmm.
It can get expensive and it takes some planning. So this was 2015. I think me and my wife had been married for just a couple of years, 2 years. And I started to do my research. I started looking up stuff and I'm like, you know what? This might have some legs to it. It just might. So I absolutely thought my wife was going to say no. Like, I am not leaving and living in another country. No way. But I pitched it to her like this. Okay, honey, we don't have any money. We don't really make that much money. But if I get a job over there, based on what I've seen, it's kind of comparable to what we have here.
Right.
And, we'll be able to travel while we're there. So instead of losing money going on a vacation, we're able to make money and travel.
Okay. Did she go for that?
She did. It appealed to her logic. Because my wife she's very much a planner. Okay. She's not like and I become a planner more because I'm with her. Right. So we went. I mean, I went to that job there and I don't know, maybe February. I mean, by August 3rd, we flew out.
You were in China. Wow.
We got passports. I mean, our lease was up in April. So we moved in with my dad for a couple of months. And that was, it was what it was.
Right.
It was cool. It served its story. Exactly. I say that all the time. I have so many stories, but it served its purpose. Wow. And I mean, like 6 months later, we were in China, and I mean, we couldn't believe it. It was like a whole new world.
Right.
We had never been there. I wasn't going with a program. I just looked at it. Was like going on Monster or Indeed and looking for a job. That's exactly what I did. You go on these different sites and you go, okay. I was interviewing at like 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night because of the 13-hour time difference.
Right.
So I'm interviewing and I meet this one guy. He's from Seattle. He went to college and studied Chinese because he wanted to live in China. That was his thing.
Right.
So like you attribute it to God. I mean, I do the same thing because I know that there's no way all this stuff just lines up perfectly like this. Like, how could I ever put that together?
Right. Absolutely.
Some other people think something different. Right. That's just what we think here.
Right.
So I get there. I mean, he's just a great help. Wow. Because you will hear so many horror stories where people get there, their living accommodations are terrible. The school that they're at is terrible. They're in the middle of nowhere and it just stinks. But this guy, Josh, that was his name. I mean, he really set us up great people over there. I mean, China, that's a whole nother story. But that's where I got.
Awesome.
That's where I started teaching.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I got back here.
How long did you stay there?
We stayed for like 3 days short of a year.
Wow.
We came back like July 30th the next year.
Okay.
Yep, with our church.
Awesome.
And I mean, yeah, it was. So my pastor and friend was like, why don't you just be a teacher here?
Right.
I was like, it's worth a shot. I like teaching. It's a lot of fun.
Uh-huh.
I'm not teaching anything by high school though. I know for sure I don't want to teach
I'm with
anybody younger.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I couldn't, I don't know how they teach elementary and middle school.
You know what? Everybody's got their
Yeah,
place. Some people
absolutely.
go, I don't know how you teach high school. I could never do it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's interesting that thanks for sharing that. That's awesome because that's so many kids, especially, you know, African American young
Mhm.
kids, they really don't know their potential. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's like you have so much potential and they just kind of put themselves in a box and don't explore opportunities, you know,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
did, and, you know, have that confidence and also to have that support of your family to be able to walk that out.
Well,
That's a
I think that
blessing.
happens because a lot of times kids don't know and they're not given the space to explore.
Right.
And what I see all the time is, well, my parents say I got to do this. My parents say I should be this. Don't do that because it doesn't make any money.
Right.
Or the kid will go, I had this, I mean, this girl was bright, amazing. I'm like, this girl could be whatever she want to be.
Right.
But when we started doing our career research project, which I do every semester,
Uh-huh.
she was looking at things that her mom and her dad did. I'm like,
She does. Yeah.
that's not bad,
Right.
right? If that's what you really want to do, then by all means go for it. But this space is for you to start to kind of research and get an idea. Even if you don't know for sure, I'm giving you the space and opportunity to look at different things, to try to figure out something that's going to be a little bit different, something that you want to do. Because I always tell them, and I'm sure you'll recognize this, is that your gift will make room for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're really good at what you do, people will seek you out because you're an expert. This is what you do, right? You are an expert in teaching and nursing. And so that led to your consulting company, right? And I'm sure people will go, man, she was a great teacher. She was a great nurse. Why wouldn't I go to her for her expertise?
Right. And you know, that's sort of what, you know, I have a nonprofit as well. I don't know if I
Oh
mentioned,
man, just the hats
but
keep on coming.
yeah. So I have a nonprofit. It's called Nurturing Wellness Group Foundation.
Okay, talk about it.
And it actually does exactly what you said you were looking for or what your kids are looking for. It
Mm,
really birthed from me teaching in my classroom students who didn't have a clue of what they wanted to do and they
yeah,
had such low self-esteem or self-limiting beliefs that they didn't, and then they were exposed to so little they didn't have
yeah,
a clue of what they wanted to do.
yep,
And so what I started to do is recognize the fact that I had to kind of unpack that baggage,
yes,
meaning I had to unpack those self-limiting beliefs, have them to really dream a little bit. You know, like
mm,
I said, you know, I do what I love to do, not, you know, yeah, I can go and make more money doing this or doing that, but
yes,
I wouldn't be fulfilled. And so what I do is I help young people to get present to what do they want out of life, not what do you want out of a job. Okay, so
ooh,
what does
that's
your
good.
life look like? You know, what type of environment do you want to live in? And so let's start there. And now, what do you need to include in your life,
Mm,
or what type of person do you need to be so that you can reach those objectives in your life? And
yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah,
help them sort of plan, like, okay, what do I? Because I kind of really think, you know, I kind of developed this out of my own personal story because I was a special ed student and this is where I started. I had a learning disability, but I wanted to be a nurse. So who I was at that point, my
right.
starting line truly contradicted who I wanted to be. So
At
for
least you thought.
me,
At least you
right,
thought.
exactly. But for me, a nurse was confident, smart, and that was totally the opposite of how I saw myself at that point, right? So I had to recognize where I wanted to go. This is what I was wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
but then I had to be realistic of where I was, but not be disappointed. So I had
Right.
to say, okay, this is my reality. This is where I am. I can start taking small steps in the
Yes.
direction. And so I recognized, well, I need to learn how to read. Well, that means I need to tell people I can't read and ask for help.
Whew. That's a man. That's a
No.
big step right there.
Right. And so that was one of the things. Another thing is I was shy, and I was like, okay, a nurse is confident. So I had to put myself out there. I had to be a little bit uncomfortable. And so once I recognized where I wanted to go with my life, then I had to start becoming that person.
Right.
And so that's what I teach young people to do. I teach them to dream their dreams. You know, what do you want out of life? And you know, and it could be a carbon copy of what their family had, but
that's not out of the question.
It may be a different path of how they need to get there. And so I help them to create a path of how they're going to get there. So if they need a mentor, then they recognize, you know what, I'm not going to be able to get to where I want to go if I don't get a mentor, if I don't get tutoring, if I don't, you know, put myself out there. So I help them to create that plan. So that's what we do with our nonprofit. I work with young people who have barriers that prevent them from being successful, and I help them overcome those barriers so that they can reach their full potential.
I mean, that's so needed in what we do today. And we are, this word has been used so much. We're on the front line of seeing that.
Right.
Being in the high schools and seeing the people that are going from school into the workforce or into college education. Well, what was so much like, did you think it was better teaching from home, or just what it was different, but you liked it?
Well, you know what? This is my 23rd year teaching in education, you know, face to face. So it was like, ooh, it was like a new job, you know, it was something different. You know, I challenged myself to get a little bit more connected with each student. So I had like office time, meeting time with my student, which is something I don't get to do often, you know, during the regular school year. So I think I've developed a better relationship with the students.
Really?
You know? Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, and that's sort of like just the opposite of what I heard from my colleagues. But I did. You know, because I got a chance to meet their families, you know, moms
everybody's
in the background
coming in,
talking to me, you know,
cooking and stuff.
Right. I'm like, what you doing over there? You know, so I think I got a little bit closer with them, like, because they were in their element.
What age range do you
I teach high school, so 11th and 12th years. Yeah, so that's a little different too. I can't imagine, you know, being an elementary school teacher doing that.
No way.
But the high school students, I'm like looking at their bedrooms. Oh, that's nice.
Hey, what you got back there?
You know?
Let me see that picture.
Right. When the last time you cleaned your room? You know.
You know what? That sounds like the same kind of stuff that I would say, because at some point, like, you know, if I'm in the classroom, that's how I talk to them.
Right.
So it's like, hey, you know what y'all doing over there? What you doing on your phone? You know, what you looking at? I'm so nosy. I'm always on people's phone looking. They're like, Mr. Franklin, what you? And so when we had everything online, and if I noticed something, I'm like, hey man, what's going on in that background? You know, what's that wall about? Did you paint that? Or I see you got the lights going, or you got a lot of colors back there.
Right.
And some teachers, they're like, no, you need to be at a desk with a shirt on, lights, you know, no hair nets, no bonnets, no do-rags, sit up straight. I'm like, man, that's only gonna last for so long, you know. But some teachers, they like that in the classroom too. So I'm like, we got this one teacher that's across the hall from me. I'm like, hey, if y'all got this teacher, she don't play. Like, she don't mess around. Like, she not like me. She's not gonna clown with y'all. But I mean, she's an awesome teacher.
Right.
But we just got, you know, two different styles. And you been in education for so many years, I'm sure you have come across the same, where some people are like, man, I don't know how you do it like that. And then you may look like, I don't know how you do it like that.
It just takes me too much energy to be like, you know, the first week of school, I'm like, you know, no nonsense, You know, I got a lot of people who drop because I'm like, okay, let me show you all the work we're about to do.
Yes.
But then after the first week, I'm like, okay, that's just too much energy. I just need to be me.
Yeah. What do you teach?
Yeah. Well, I'm a registered nurse, so I teach introduction to the medical field. So it's called health occupation. So, so I teach like medical terminology, anatomy, and physiology. So so I get them ready for, you know, opportunities within the medical field.
And that's one of those courses you choose to take.
Right.
So I'm sure some people get in there like, they're like, oh no, I gotta get out of here.
They drop immediately, you know, so I get through them pretty quick.
We've unpacked so much here, and we got to get to our last segment here, and it's called Today in History. Today in History, 1927, the first commercial flight to Hawaii. Now, when I saw that, the first thing I thought of was vacation. So have you ever taken a vacation? That's from the lens of me never having taken a vacation and gone anywhere. Okay, have you ever taken a vacation? And if you have, like, what was your favorite place to go?
Ooh. Okay, well, I am blessed with a husband who makes me take a vacation on a regular.
Yeah, shout out to the husband.
Right. Absolutely. And his name happens to be Terry, so we have the same first name.
Oh.
And so we have been on many vacations everywhere. Let me see, what's the best? Let's see, Punta Cana. We were there for Mexico? It's in the Dominican.
Okay, yeah.
And so we was there for our 20th wedding anniversary.
Wow. Man,
yeah, we're coming up on our 30th anniversary.
Hey.
So I'm like, I want to go to Hawaii. So which is ironic. And I think that's why I looked at that. And I was like, oh, Hawaii. Yeah, I want to go to Hawaii this year. That's hint, hint.
All right. All right, Terry. Going to Hawaii.
Absolutely. But we went to Punta Cana. We went to an all-exclusive, adult-only resort where we got served up.
Yeah.
And the beach and the pool was like within walking, you know, just a few feet away. Yeah, that was by far my favorite vacation.
So I think the closest thing we've had to a vacation is us being here this summer because she's off work because she had a baby. So
that's okay. Yeah, how long have you been married?
8 years.
Okay, you're still
8 years. So we're still working on it. Like I said before, we had no money.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about taking vacations like they're free? Oh, just go take a vacation. Like, hold on, wait a second. I got to make the calculations. I can't just leave and take off work. So
well, you know what? Vacations are in your mind. You know, being home with your son, your newborn son, and loving on each other. We didn't start vacationing until, you know, my kids were, you know, 5 or 6.
Okay.
You know, so
we got 5 years.
Yep. So it's okay. Go to the park, go for a bike ride, you know. Vacationing is a state of mind. It doesn't have to be a location.
So, okay, because a lot of people, they say, like, once you start having kids, basically your life is over. Yes, please speak to that, because you know, and I'm sure it was kind of like this as you started, and people kind of give you all of this advice, and you know, some of it you take, some of it you leave. One of the things, now whoever's listening to this, you know, whatever, that I found annoying is that, like, people don't always give you advice that you can use. They'll just say, oh man, you better get a lot of sleep before that baby comes. It's like, okay, well, duh, you know, I know that, but can you give me some tangible, something real? I had one teacher who is a woman that's had kids. She's like, oh, make sure you always have your phone on you. Because me, I haven't had we haven't had kids before. She's like, your wife could, she could drop at any time. So I'm like, oh, you're right. Always, I gotta have my phone on me. No, she talked a little bit about postpartum. Another person, they said, make sure you don't leave your wife at home alone with the baby until she's comfortable, because she was like, for me, that was something like I wasn't confident yet, being with the baby. I was like, okay, that is real advice. Not, make sure you get a lot of sleep.
Right.
Well, you can't bag the sleep and then use it whenever you don't get enough. Sleep is, for today. But so please speak to that new parent stuff.
And you know what? This is so funny. You asked me this because, I do talk about this in my book, actually, about having friends and not being so prideful and secretive that you don't tell people what you need. People don't know what to tell you or advice to give you if you don't tell them what you need.
Right.
And so, be transparent, ask for help.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with something, and, I have a lot of different friends that have helped me with different things. Like, my good friend, Kathy and Tony Ragg, they're the reason why my children are still alive, because
whoa, wait a second. Hold on. Is that in the book?
No, that's not in the book.
Okay, you could tell it if you want to. I'm like, we can't give that away if that's in the book.
No, that's not. I mean, they're the reason why. Because my boys, I had 2 boys, right? And so they were a handful. And then, but my girlfriend, Kathy, she had 3 boys. So when I'm ready to pull my hair out, Kathy, look, these boys are getting on my nerve. What do you need to do? She'll say, just drop them off, Terri. Bring them to me.
Oh, wow.
I'll let you, you and Terri can relax or whatever. But if I never told her, she would never know. And I think a lot of times, especially new parents, you figure like, maybe I need to know this. No, kid didn't come with an instruction manual. You're not supposed to know that. But that's what, and I'm so glad, you and your family, you go to church. That's what your church family's for.
Yeah.
You have those conversations with people. Hey, my kid ain't sleeping. What should I do?
What's the deal?
My wife is tripping. What should I do? My husband is driving me crazy. What should I do?
Right.
And I think we feel like we should know, and you just don't. And so we suffer in silence a lot,
Man, and I'd like to take this time to say, I can't name names because I don't want to leave anybody out, but we have so many great people that are in our lives that continue to help us, like you said, in different ways, because we like still being with people, just because we have a son now. It's not like, oh, we're done being and we've had people like, okay, what do you need? Just whatever, just let me know whatever it is that you need. Anybody who's asking that question now, hey, we need like paper plates and we need food, because neither one of us like to cook. We don't want to wash dishes. I'm thankful for the people who have reached out, who have sent text messages, who have called. And I told her, I didn't tell her, I think I was telling a friend of mine that we've had more people over in these past 2 weeks since my son has been born than we had all year. Because we got our house last July. She was like, house first, then baby. So thank God we was able to kind of have this plan.
Right.
And just, we've had so much outpouring and people helping us. We've got stuff for the baby. And so I'm just thankful for all of y'all. You know who you are. And I just like to shout out to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a great place to leave it.
Yeah, absolutely. Grateful for the people that are in your life. Absolutely.
Yes, 100%. And I'm grateful for this episode.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
So make sure you follow Terri where? Tell people where they can find your stuff, where they can go to see you, your website, your social media, all of that.
Yes. So you can find me on Facebook, Terri Brinston. I'm also on a Nurturing Wellness group on Facebook.
What about Instagram?
Instagram, Terri Brinston on Instagram. And so, yeah, my book is in Barnes and Nobles and also on what is it?
Amazon.
Amazon.
There we go.
Totally lost my mind.
I'm like, it's got to be on Amazon. It has to be.
My book is on Amazon and also Barnes and Nobles, and so it is available. You can get the paperback, and you can also get it on Kindle.
Okay, excellent. Make sure y'all go follow Terri, stay up to date with her and what she's doing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, download, follow, rate, review, comment, all of that great stuff. I'm like, man, I got to make sure I cover all my bases here. This is us signing off. The Living Numbers Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Rambles. You all in the next one. That's it.
You.
I mean, Terri,
I hope you got enough stuff.
This has been amazing. I know that this episode will be, I mean, it will knock it out the park. People will love it. I know they will, because this was so much fun for us. And just us speaking before and us speaking now.
Absolutely.
This was great.
I didn't feel like I was being interviewed. I'm like, okay, when are we going to start?
I'm like, no, this is how we do things here on the Living Numbers Podcast.
All right. Well,
yes, always just because that's what people want. They want authenticity. Like you want interviews. You can watch. Wow, I was gonna say 2020. I think that's an outdated reference.
You are a new dad. You have.
There we go. Here we go.
We're watching news.
Yeah.